You're excommunicado, John. And that marker doesn't mean shit.
Either way, you and me will be even.
No. After this, we are less than even.
I think it's fair to say that the John Wick series has managed to grow a lot bigger than anyone was expecting it to. What started off as a simple $20 million action film has quickly grown into 3 sequels, a spin-off series, a spin-off movie, a bunch of transmedia projects, and plenty of collaborations with other IPs. And while I don't think the fight scenes are always that well executed, as I've stated in my previous video, they at least try and be flashy, cool, and give the audience a good variety of settings and gimmicks so that the fights don't get stale. Now, while the franchise has managed to keep audiences entertained, including me, I personally don't think these films are well created, especially when it comes to the writing. And I think the main reason for that is because the world building that these characters and these stories take place in just isn't very strong. It's constantly vague, changing, and introducing contradictory information to suit what the story needs. Let's look at the first 2 films for a start. The first 2 films are a lot simpler than the latter 2 films, and as such there's less to mess up with the world building. Despite that, there are 2 main points that I saw that I really struggle to take seriously. For a start, how much does one of these coins represent? These things are used for just about everything, but the exact value of them remains a mystery. Like, he gives out 5 or 6 coins to the cleaning crew, who are having to dispose of a dozen dead bodies and have swept his house clean. Now, as everyone who's ever had to clean a dead body up knows, it usually costs a few thousand to get everything cleaned up squeaky clean, especially as the chemicals aren't your run-of-the-mill products that you get from the supermarket. And considering that they have an entire van's worth of bodies to dispose of, I'm going to assume that, for those coins, he's going to, at the very least, be paying 25,000. Then he goes to the Continental and it costs him 1 coin for the room. And I guess I could understand why it would cost him so much. It's a very luxurious room in the middle of the city where no one who is part of this assassin society is allowed to harm anyone in it. So I guess I could understand why 1 night costs him a coin, but the rest of the time? You need a coin just to get to the Continental's bar/lounge area. We see him give at least 3 coins to look at some old maps and get an old key. He only gives 1 coin to get himself a lightweight but completely bulletproof suit. We see in the Italian Continental it only costs 1 coin for 2 drinks, and then it only costs John 1 coin for this homeless guy to hide him, kill 2 people for him, and then drag him back to the Bowery King's lair to get patched up. Like, the films don't really bother trying to tell us how much these coins are worth by comparing them to any dollars or pounds or euros. So at the end of the day, it just seems like these characters are just paying a random amount for the coins to do stuff. And before you tell me that these coins don't really have a set amount and they're more metaphorical and are supposed to represent favors, like, surely that makes it worse then, doesn't it? In today's economy, there's a lot of different businesses that all do the same thing, from food to technology to electricity to healthcare. And as such, they have to balance their prices so that they're not too cheap that they don't make a profit, but not too expensive that they go to a competitor. But the places in the John Wick universe don't seem to have that. There isn't exactly a lot of competition in terms of where people in this assassin underworld can buy resources and services. Most of them seem to operate within the boundaries of the high table, so like, surely they could just charge whatever they want and there's not really a lot anyone can do about it. The Continental Hotel is one of the few places across the world that killing isn't allowed to be done, giving assassins some peace of mind while they stay there. So what's exactly stopping them from charging 10 coins or 20 or 100? It just seems like such an arbitrary system. The second thing I can't really wrap my head around is the relationship between the assassin underworld and the regular systems in place for the rest of society. Like, at first I thought maybe it was just Jimmy who's in on who John is and what world he's a part of, but no, it just seems like law enforcement in general know about this world and just let them get on with it. It's not just the police either. In John Wick 3, when John is on the run and running out of time and needs to get his dog to safety, he gives a random taxi driver his gold coin, and the driver knows exactly what this means and who he is. So besides the regular knowledge and training that taxi drivers, police officers, firemen and hospital staff go through, do these people also just get randomly told one day, by the way, there's this secret assassin society that pays us gold coins for favours. Stay away from them unless they want to buy your services. What happens if they don't want to give services to these people, who are criminals by law? Do they just get fired or not get hired in the first place? What happens if an assassin just goes around killing random people and then goes to the Continental? The police aren't allowed to approach these areas, and the High Table doesn't really care about what you do as long as you don't kill on Continental grounds. So can these assassins just go on killing sprees and get away with it? So these assassins are allowed to just do what they want, but what do these services get out of this arrangement? Like, obviously they don't get killed by them, but surely there has to be some sort of bonus for what they get for allowing these assassins to just walk around doing whatever they want. But no, the films just don't really explain it, they just sort of place it out there and expect you to fully understand why it works like that. And then we reach John Wick 3. In this installment, it tries to focus more on the politics of the assassin underworld and the struggles that arise when John Wick breaks the rules and goes excommunicado. But as a result, it also highlights how arbitrary the rules and regulations of this world are. So Winston and the Bowery King are told that because they helped or failed to prevent John from killing Santino, they will be punished because Santino was a member of the High Table, and aiding in the killing of a member of the High Table is something that must be punished. But if that's the case, then surely they could just clear themselves of any wrongdoing, because if that's the case, then Santino should have been marked for death for killing his sister. Now, I understand that there wasn't really any evidence of Santino ordering the attack on his sister. As far as everyone else is concerned, they would have seen John attacking Gianna's party and she was found dead later, so it would just look like his work. But Winston has the marker that confirms that Santino asked John to do a task, and then as soon as his sister was dead, Santino closed the marker. So it's not like Winston can't just show the correct authorities that Santino was responsible for the exact same crimes that they are now being accused of. But no, not only is the marker never brought up as usable evidence, Winston doesn't even bring Gianna up to explain what happened. And despite the constant talks about the rules and how anyone can be punished, apparently Santino was allowed to just get away with stuff because he became a member of the High Table. Imagine if in real life that killing a senator was immediately punished by execution, but then the person that killed the senator took the senator's spot. So now everyone else is just cool with the new senator, and instead they get annoyed at the people trying to bring that senator down. That's how nonsensical the main source of conflict in this movie is. Like, I get if the High Table still wants to kill John for killing Gianna, but punishing Winston and the King for allowing John to do the same thing to Santino that the High Table are attempting to do to John just seems stupid to me. There also just seems to be far too many conflicting rules and obligations that these different groups within the same assassin underworld have that it would be an absolute nightmare for a HR department to sort out. So in John Wick 2, Winston says that there are only 2 rules that must be adhered to, and that is that no business can occur on continental grounds, and that if you make a marker pact with someone, it must be honoured. But as we've already established, the main conflict in John Wick 3 for Winston and the Bowery King is the fact that they didn't stop John going after a member of the High Table, which would mean there would be 3 rules that have to be followed. And you could argue that this is just the High Table making shit up and abusing their power, but like, you probably shouldn't try and change the rules to suit you when it's going to piss off thousands of people who kill people daily for a living. There's also the fact that the design and function of the marker system is horribly constructed. Like, you could ask me to kill one dude in a bar, and if I agree to that marker and do the deed, then I could come back to you and tell you that you need to wipe out an entire crime family by tomorrow morning. And if you don't agree to do my task, or if you fail to do it, you'll get excommunicadoed and executed. It just seems silly that there doesn't seem to be any sort of limits on this thing. And if killing a member of the High Table or assisting someone that is excommunicadoed is an action that is punishable by the system, then I don't understand why actions such as these aren't restricted from being enforced by the marker, because then a marker just becomes an unavoidable death sentence. And it's not just the marker system that's dumb. John then goes to the crime family that he originated from and tries to use his ticket to get safe passage away from the US. But despite the fact that he's excommunicadoed, there shouldn't be any services available to him, and despite the fact that the director clearly doesn't want to help him, apparently this ticket is binding enough that even orders from the High Table don't have enough authority to render it obsolete. Like, I don't know why she would do this unless there were consequences for her not taking John's ticket. Again, this is a very obviously flawed system. There needs to be some restrictions for this because the director ends up thinking she has to do this for John, and this ends up getting all of her men killed and she gets her hands mutilated. Another thing is that apparently the rules of hospitality associated with the Continental still needs to be adhered to, even if there's a person in it who's excommunicadoed. But like, if that's the case, let's say that I kill someone on the hotel grounds and they want to excommunicado me, Can't I just arm myself and refuse to leave? They wouldn't be able to remove me from the hotel unless they use deadly force on me. And they wouldn't want to do that because then they'd get excommunicadoed for killing me. I'm not saying that it's likely to happen, and I know that John wouldn't do it to Winston or his staff, but say for instance that Winston or Charon discovered Miss Perkins after she killed Harry, and she knew that they would excommunicado her for doing this. What's to stop her from killing everyone because they're not allowed to fight back and then escaping? If individuals who are employed by the High Table who are trying to kill an excommunicado target aren't exempt from the rules, then surely other assassins aren't either? Again, really dumb system. And then we have John Wick 4, which makes the ending of John Wick 2 and the entire film of John Wick 3 completely redundant. So we learn that you can challenge a member of the High Table to a duel, even if you're excommunicadoed. And from this you can set any terms you want, including being relieved of your excommunicado, even if you wage war against the High Table or you kill the one above the table. And members of the High Table aren't allowed to refuse this challenge. The only requirement for this is that you have to be part of a family that's part of the High Table, and you have to have a ticket from them in order for the High Table to recognise it. Which begs the question of why Winston didn't just tell John this at the end of the second movie. Like, instead of delaying his excommunicado and getting complicit in his crimes by the High Table, why didn't he just tell John to use his ticket and challenge the excommunicado? John would have been able to win it and live out the rest of his life in peace, but instead Winston just lets the man he sees as a son get horrifically abused and struggling for the last years of his life because he decides not to. This is the problem of just introducing a new rule to the world to justify the plot of a new film. You have to double check it, because if you don't, then you can end up damaging the other films. As I've said, this one rule just makes the end of John Wick 2 and all of John Wick 3 completely redundant as stories because they could have easily been avoided. So yeah, the world of John Wick is just a big dumb mess. And while I enjoy the action set pieces, the cinematography and the stylization of the films, if you're someone who likes to analyze films and get immersed in their worlds, enjoying the stories, the characters, the world building and the themes, then watching these movies and seeing where the plot goes is going to give you a headache by the end of the second film, and most likely a brain hemorrhage by the start of the fourth. Thank you for watching, lads and lasses. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing and checking out some of my other videos. Sharing my videos is a big help, and if you're feeling really generous, please consider my Patreon or YouTube membership. But overall, I just hope you had a great day, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.